Thanks for joining us today. My name is Michael Miller. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Elvis Maldonado from the city of Homestead. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Hey, Michael. Thank you, and good to be back.
Yes. So, former councilman for the city,
correct,
of Homestead, and you want to come back,
right?
So, tell us about that journey, and you want to be mayor this go around,
yes?
Right?
Yes.
Tell us about why and what you did before.
Right. Well, I was fortunate enough to be elected back in 2009, and I served the city council for the last 10 years. So
You were on that council for 10
years. For 10 years, and those 10 years are pretty important, I think, and pretty significant for the city of Homestead. Homestead is the second oldest city in Miami-Dade County. A lot of people don't know that. We're almost a self-sustaining city, and since we were the further south, I mean, we had to be self-sustaining back in those days. I think the last 10 years that we were there was so much progress. There was a lot that happened there. We did so many things that were impactful to the city. We actually moved the city forward. And that's really one of the reasons why I'm coming back. I want to run for mayor now because it's a track record. Look what we've done in the last 10 years. We solved a lot of the traffic issues within the city. Again, we expanded all the major artery roads. We worked with the county to expand all the major artery roads, 328th Street, which that took a while, but we finally got it done. 344th Street was expanded. 312 all the way through was expanded. And so that is about, we're solving problems with traffic because traffic is a big issue. I think traffic is an issue throughout Miami-Dade County. We were the final frontier of Miami-Dade County. That's when I first got involved. I always said this, we're the final frontier. And guess what's going to happen? Eventually, everyone's going to push down. They're going to fill up our spaces because we had a lot of space down there. But that space is now being filled, and we're having, we've been developing over the years.
People up north in Miami, all right, when they look to Homestead, everybody sort of like giggles, all right, a little bit. But they're not giggling anymore, all right?
Right.
And the old Homestead was really on the on the west side of Chrome. That was the original old time folks that are there. Yeah. And then on the east side of US 1, sort of where the turnpike is, that area started developing pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I grew up there. I've been there since I was 5 years old, and I recall driving down 312th Street to head down to the Bayfront Park, our state national park that we have, and it was just a small 2-lane road and pretty much potato fields to the left and right of that. Back in 2005, 4 or 5, that council pretty much, the land was sold to developers, and they came in and they plotted the land and they developed it. So the east side of Homestead really grew pretty significantly. Prior to that, you figured there was about 20,000 people living in Homestead, residing in Homestead. Now we're close to 80,000. We're about 75,000 right now.
So let's put that together. 75,000. Doral around 50 or so. Yes. Coral Gables in that same range. Mm-hmm. Pinecrest, 15, 20,000, something like that. Palmetto Bay, smaller. South Miami, tiny. So it's a pretty big city.
Pretty much.
And do you happen to recall the approximate budget of the city?
The budget of the city, just
big question. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. No,
it's a budget.
We're about 200 million, which is a pretty significant budget. And most of that budget, believe it or not, still goes to our police in Homestead.
So a lot of people don't know how that as far as your power plant, the city owns a power plant.
Yes.
And where do they get a lot of their power from?
So it's funny enough, that the power base. So we generate power, right? But we only generate power when we could sell the power. And so obviously that selling of the power, it's money coming to the city, right, and it stays within that utilities fund. But we also purchase our power through FPL and through like Duke Energy. So, but let me tell you a little bit about that. When we were on council, that's one of the issues that we solved. There was a prior council before us that put us on a contract that had us paying a high rate and locked us in there for about 30 years, if I'm correct. 30 years that we were locked into a rate. It wasn't until when we were there that it was finally coming to fruition. And we were able to reduce that number. Now our contracts were 5 years. with excellent rates, and obviously
that's in buying
something
power.
That's in buying power, and so that's power that we give to. Well,
And
that savings goes to the people.
So the rate per kilowatt that the Homestead resident pays that has Homestead power, how does that compare if they were directly from the big supplier down here?
So we're actually, believe it or not, I know people, we have a chart that could easily show. We actually did this again in my last term. When we worked on the rates, we wanted to compare those numbers, and so we had our utilities director do the research and come back with that report. And believe it or not, our rates were way lower than FPL, than Duke Energy, than a lot of the providers that are out there already.
Do you get any power from the county, from the refuge?
No, we don't do anything with the county.
Is the power plant a source of pride for the long-term residents? Is it something that they go, hey, this is great?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a benefit to it, but I think that it's been a challenge over the years. One of the things that we solved when we got on there is that we wanted a true balanced budget, which we never had, believe it or not. A lot of times, for many years, they were taking money from utilities and putting into the general funds to balance the budget. Well, we put a stop to that, because at some point you have to do things the right way, and so we had to bite the bullet. Like they say, tighten up things and be able to solve that problem. So, we were able to finally balance the budget 3 years in a row without using any of that money for utilities, but we did it the right way. So the city is finally on a true balanced budget, not taken away from the utilities. Now, what you asked the question is that, is there a sense of pride? I think, yeah, there's a sense of pride, because there's no other really municipality in the state of Florida that has a utilities plant. And so what I'd like when I become elected as mayor is that, something along the lines that FPO just did, with the county, which they were using unused space and created a solar farm, so to say. When you drive by the airport, if you look over a lake that's right outside of the airport, they have solar panels all on that lake. And so those solar power panels are generating power to the county. So as I say, is it going to help out the MIA, or are they taking it, putting it back into the grid, or are they selling it? I think it's something that we should be working on, and we have a lot of space in Homestead that's unused, and I'd like to work on something.
So we understand Amazon's opening, or they're opening a place. You have the big salmon farm.
Yes, yeah. I mean, look, Homestead and even outside of Homestead, South Dade. We are the final frontier. There's still plenty of space out there, and it's how we're going to use that space. So yes, to be clear, it's the racetrack that we own. The city of Homestead owns the racetrack, right, in partnership with the county, and we lease that space, that racetrack, to NASCAR and their organization. What happened is that, and the reason why this opportunity for Amazon came about was that, they lost the main race, and it wasn't their fault. It was just NASCAR in itself. It got rid of it moved the championship. And so as a company that's in charge of running this facility, how are you going to make up the loss of that race, those revenues? And so, because they're no longer using all that space that they had out there for parking, they came to us, the city and the current council, and asked if they could build a warehouse. And
you mean Amazon?
No, it was a track who actually built the warehouse.
Oh, okay.
The city of Homestead allowed the track to build the warehouse on our property, that's leased to them, and so they're going to, the hopes or the saying, or what they're saying is that Amazon is going to take and use that facility on top of the other facility that's right outside of Homestead, that was brought in by Moss when he was in office, a few years ago.
Sometimes people, especially if people live up north, make this real generalization about Homestead. They include west of Chrome, all right, and then east out into the middle of the bay. But there's the city of Homestead, then surrounding it is unincorporated Dade County.
Yes.
So the city of Homestead has its own, for people to know, don't know their own zoning board. So when people, and that's where people would go to make application or to voice their opinion. On the other hand, certainly out west, where a lot of that land, potatoes today, if you will, is going to be apartments or houses, and we see that constant onslaught. They have property rights, and they're trying to do the best for themselves and for their family, and I get it. And for the folks that are going to Roberts's here, and pretty soon they're going to look across the street, there's going to be construction. Same was in Kendall, 40 years ago. So one of the things that people always ask us, so I'm going to ask you, how are you going to watch out so that it's not overbuilt, but yet recognizing the property rights of the individuals?
Right. So the beauty of Homestead is that our zone, yes, you're right. Within the city of Homestead, we have our own planning and zoning board, and we are the final decision makers on what is developed in Homestead. And right now, we have the lowest homes per acre in all of the county, and the maximum number of homes per acre are 10. And so we've been able to kind of keep Homestead. We've not Kendallized, I think is the term a lot of people can be familiar with. We've not Kendallized our homestead, or we've not Miami our homestead, because we don't pack so many homes within an acre. And so in following that guideline, we have a nice balanced development that's happening there. Now, outside of the city limits, obviously we cannot control that. That is controlled by the county and those that represent the county, which is District 8 and 9.
So do people get confused?
All the time.
They're blaming you, guy. Listen, it's not in our district. It's over yonder.
Right. Yeah. So right outside of, for example, on 296th Street, which is right outside of our limit, literally that's our cutoff point. There you have a lot of developers that have bought property into developing homes that used to be farmland. But that's not happening within our borders, within our county, with our city borders.
I just saw a request by one of the developers out west. They wanted to go to 13 homes per acre. Holy moly. That's 30% higher than your maximum.
Yes.
That's a lot of folks.
Well, my concern with that would be that we make sure that we provide the right infrastructure. What I mean that is that, are we going to make sure that the developers work in conjunction with the county to make sure that we're having the right infrastructure in place, which is the roads, right? Right now, I campaigned, over in the county last year, and we saw that a lot of the homes that were built off by, let's say, 186th Street and 147th Avenue, you have a whole onslaught of new homes there, but the roads are still 2-lane roads, and so you have such a bottleneck happening back there. So if that is taking place, we have to be responsible and make sure that they are providing the proper infrastructure, which is the roadways, in order that we could facilitate traffic coming back and forth.
So there's a lot of pressure on the county and local governments to provide workable, and I think that's the term, and affordable housing. It's almost an oxymoron, affordable housing in Miami-Dade County, because it's, I don't want to say laughable, but but it is what it is. All right. So what, if you're elected mayor, what can you help do so there can be places where people can afford to live in Homestead and hopefully work in Homestead, so it relieves this traffic problem that we're all having, and that we know the busway is within a year or two is going to be, facilitating some of that. So what could you do if you're elected?
Well, it's funny because there was a few projects that came before us when I was in office, which are being brought within the area that is zoned what we call R3, which would allow apartment type complexes or condos. And I spoke of the importance of that because I chaired the Transportation and Economic Committee with the Florida League of Cities, and I understand the challenges that we're going to be facing. I mean, we have 1,000 people moving into the state of Florida on a daily basis. Those 1,000 families or individuals that are coming are going to look for a place to live, work, and play. And so they're going to make sure they find a job. So a lot of them come into Miami-Dade County. And so when you come to Miami-Dade County, you see the prices of the homes and the rent, then you're going to try to find the best bang for the buck. And that's happening in the South Dade area. Why? Because we're the furthest away from the economy of Miami-Dade County. So the important part is, and to answer your question, is that we need to be able to provide, that workforce housing. And I had this argument, and where I've now seen it come to fruition, where I said, I have daughters that eventually are going to grow up and want to move out, and they would love to live in Homestead, but we don't have no place for them to live at. So guess what? That came true. We never brought any type of workforce housing, not affordable workforce housing, which is affordable housing in a sense, right? They weren't able to find anything here, so they had to move outside of the Homestead city limits. So, and talking about that, let me bring something that's happening currently right now. The current council just passed, they did an RFQ for the bid. They opened up a bid process for anyone who's looking to buy the old City Hall site, which is right off of US 1
Yes.
and 312th Street and US 1. Historically, it's a large piece of property next to the busway, and that's somewhere that I think that we could work in conjunction either with a public-private partnership to bring some type of environment that's going to bring work, jobs to Homestead. Right now, they're entertaining putting affordable housing there, from my understanding. And so that's something that we need to look into and figure out what's really going to happen there.
Okay, so you're out on the campaign trail.
Yes.
The election's coming up when?
So depends. Right now, we qualify at in the first week of September. So if we get a third person running into the race, then we'll have a primary October 5th. If that does not happen, it's just me and the current mayor, then it would be November.
Okay.
And
And
so,
people can find you all over the internet, all right?
yeah, just Google my name, Elvis Maldonado. You could go to elvismaldonado.com, my website, vote Elvis Maldonado for my Facebook page, and go there and find out what's happening.
Okay. And people want to know, inquiring minds want to know, and you know what I'm going to ask you?
Yeah.
How did you get the name Elvis?
The quick story on that was I was born in 1973, and we didn't have ultrasounds back in those days. And so my mother, I have an older brother, so she swore that this baby in her stomach was a female. And so she had picked no name. She was without doubt, this is a girl, this is a girl, this is a girl. So when I came out, she didn't have a name for me. And so
Here you go, folks. This is the real deal right here.
really?
Recorded forever. Okay.
So my my aunt was an Elvis fan, and so was my father. They were both in the room, and so my dad says, "Well, what are we going to name the baby?" My aunt said, "Why don't we name him Elvis?" My dad says, "Well, I like the name, so that's
There
the
you
name."
go.
And
Well, Elvis Maldonado, candidate for mayor of down in the city of Homestead. Good luck to you.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you soon. Folks, thanks for joining us, and we appreciate your time. Have a great day.